魂不灭，无人可动我左。你主人当年为
A god refused to come back to life, and the only being who ever really understood why was the one servant who never stopped believing he was right to try. That's where Renegade Immortal, episode 151, is all leading us to. A sharp note, guys. Always remember this follows the novel, so some details differ from the Donghua. Let's pick up right where we left off. The instant after Jie Hong's blood was absorbed into the stone statue. Quick catch-up. Wang Lin followed the mysterious restriction master Li Yuan and a woman named Ge Hong deep into the Thunder Celestial Realm, uncovering a family curse, 10,000 years in the making. A slave imprint spell binding the Li family to a fallen celestial statue. Li Yuan just sacrificed Ge Hong's life in a desperate ritual, meant to finally revive his master. This chapter is where the whole tragedy either completes itself or falls apart for the second time. Wang Lin doesn't wait to see which. He steps forward and says the thing he's been quietly piecing together this entire time. Li Yuan isn't Li Yuan at all. He's the remnant soul of the Celestial's own servant, the one who died following his master into the void, whose grief got folded into the slave imprint itself. And it wasn't just this Li Yuan. Wang Lin lays it out cold. The celebrated Li family ancestor from 10,000 years ago, the one who gathered the three treasures and vanished into legend, was never really himself either. That too was this same servant's soul merged with the imprint and reincarnated straight into the Li bloodline. It's why the Ji family submitted to him 10,000 years ago on his first attempt, and why they're submitting again today. Because this servant is driven by a righteousness so absolute he'll bankrupt an entire family's bloodline just to bring his master back. You can cheat others, Wang Lin says, but you can't cheat me. As long as it's related to the reincarnation cycle, there's nothing I can't see through. And here's where the crack finally shows. Li Yuan goes silent, and something in his expression genuinely struggles for the first time. Wang Lin's been waiting for exactly this. He throws the mountain soul as a distraction toward the statue, and in the same motion summons the Karma Whip. A weapon that strikes not flesh, not the origin soul, but karmic cause and effect itself. The whip lands, and Li Yuan's body convulses and retreats. Even the flesh you're in rejects you, Wang Lin presses, because your soul isn't of the Li family. He fires off a stop spell to freeze Li Yuan mid-retreat and lands a second whip strike. But just as the struggle on Li Yuan's face peaks, it vanishes completely. Li Yuan snaps back into control, intercepts the mountain soul with a restriction, and simply says, "I'm not wrong." And the statue answers him. Its collapse accelerates violently, drawing in all the resentment and light nearby, the red flame around it visibly shrinking as if it too will eventually be absorbed. Li Yuan's voice steadies into something almost serene. "I'll allow my master's spirit to break free and enter the reincarnation cycle. I'm not wrong. Not wrong. Even if all of Master's descendants die, I'm still not wrong." He raises a hand between his brows and a black line appears. The exact same restriction that trapped Wang Lin's celestial guard earlier. But this time it flickers unstable, incomplete. Wang Lin notices immediately and holds his calm. Those two whip strikes cracked something open. His theory is confirmed. This is only a remnant soul, borrowed and unstable, not the full power it's imitating. Wang Lin presses the advantage with pure logic rather than force. He doesn't know why the first reincarnation failed 10,000 years ago, but the fact that this servant took a sudden interest in him mid-journey tells its own story. He isn't confident this time either. "What you're interested in isn't my stop spell," Wang Lin says, letting the Karma Whip flicker into view. "But this." And Li Yuan's answer confirms everything. Yes, the whip carrying the power of the reincarnation cycle and karma domain is exactly what he wants. Without it, he's only 70% confident. With it, 90%. He lunges, the black line closing into a circle aimed straight at Wang Lin, who retreats fast, but without panic, because every move he's made this whole fight was simply confirming this one final piece. "Since you failed during your first reincarnation 10,000 years ago," Wang Lin says, "then you still won't succeed during your second. All of this is because your own master is unwilling." That line finally breaks Li Yuan's composure entirely. The first genuinely violent emotional reaction of the whole confrontation. "Shut up." 3 more black lines burst from his palm, forming swords that streak toward Wang Lin. And here's where Wang Lin reveals a card nobody, not even Li Yuan, through all his surveillance restrictions, could have known he was holding. the mountain and river screen, used for the very first time. White light erupts from his mouth and unfolds into a painting world around him, the black-lined swords entering the screen and reducing to harmless dots drifting through the landscape, completely neutralized. And now Wang Lin delivers the truth that finally cracks the whole thing open. His voice booms out from inside the painting with the weight of real thunder. 10,000 years ago, you also came here with these 3 treasures like today, and also came with someone of the Ji family. The reason you didn't succeed back then was because even your master wasn't willing to awaken using such a method. As a servant to your master, are you really not wrong? Li Yuan's body trembles. The struggle returns to his face. Wang Lin whips him again and shouts the line that finally lands. Look back at your master's statue. What is that under your master's eyes? And Li Yuan turns, unable to resist an invisible pull, and sees it. The statue's cracks widen, and red light pours out carrying the unmistakable scent of Ge Hong's blood, streaming down from beneath the statue's carved eyes, like 2 rivers of red tears. Was I wrong? Li Yuan whispers, staring in genuine confusion for the first time in this entire confrontation. Here's the moment Wang Lin lays out his full deduction, and it recontextualizes everything we've watched across the last 2 episodes. Wang Lin was never actually worried about Li Yuan's combat power. At peak late-stage Ascendant, he could win that fight easily. What kept him cautious was the mysterious power radiating from Li Yuan's body, sourced entirely from the slave imprint itself, which gave him that unplaceable, unsettling aura from the very start. Wang Lin first clocked something was deeply wrong back when Li Yuan convulsed, soaked in sweat, trying to explain his family's history beneath the statue. But the real breakthrough came at the moment of Ge Hong's death. The way she looked at the statue right before she died struck Wang Lin like lightning, and everything reorganized itself in an instant. The Ji family were never the villains of this story. They're the Celestial's own descendants. And the Li family really were innocent. Cursed purely because their ancestor once boldly entered this place and received the slave imprint, condemning generation after generation to pour their cultivation and lifespan into slowly nursing an indestructible celestial soul back toward consciousness. The Li family likely tried to rebel against the curse many times and failed every time. Until, 10,000 years ago, the imprint had finally gathered enough strength from centuries of sacrifice that the soul hidden inside it could awaken on its own, manifesting as that genius Li ancestor everyone in the family still speaks of with awe. When that ancestor claimed he was liberating his bloodline from the slave imprint, he was, in brutal fact, resurrecting his master using the Li family's own flesh and blood as the vessel. And the deeper riddle, why this Li Yuan sought out Wang Lin specifically, resolves too. Li Yuan's preparations were clearly meticulous. There's no way he planned to encounter Wang Lin before even entering the realm. It was only after seeing Wang Lin wield the Karma Whip in his duel against the illusory Yin cultivator that Li Yuan changed course and pursued him. The Karma Whip affects karma directly, and that's precisely why the first attempt failed 10,000 years ago. It was never a flaw in the treasures, the servant, or the Ji family's cooperation. It was that the Celestial himself was unwilling to be revived at this price, unwilling to accept a sacrifice built on the death of every one of his own descendants. Wang Lin reasons that Ji Hong's single death alone likely wasn't enough for a true resurrection. Somewhere outside the realm, the wider Ji family was almost certainly carrying out a matching sacrifice of their own, life for life. The karmic cause was reviving the statue. The karmic effect needed was overcoming the celestial soul's own resistance, and a soul that powerful was never going to yield to something this simple. If Wang Lin himself had used the Karma Whip in this ritual, he'd have been dragged into the cycle right alongside them, with no guarantee he'd survive it either. Wang Lin even speculates, correctly it seems, that Li Yuan is carrying a second karma-related treasure of his own, which explains why the Jie family, after their first failure, didn't hide the 3 ancestral treasures at all. Instead, they made the entire clan aware of the situation and simply waited for the slave imprint's second reincarnation to arrive in the Li bloodline, generations later. That's why everything went so smoothly the instant Li Yuan approached the Ge family this time. And it explains the personality shifts Wang Lin had been quietly tracking throughout their whole journey. There was never one soul split cleanly into 2 people. There was exactly one soul housed in Li Yuan's body, but that single soul carried 2 competing identities within it. The true Li Yuan underneath, and the servant's remnant soul layered over him. The friction between those two identities is precisely why Li Yuan's restrictions kept destabilizing under stress. The incomplete 18-plum restriction, the flickering black lines of the annihilation restriction, all of it symptoms of a soul at war with itself. Watching all this from inside the safety of the mountain and river painting, Wang Lin finds himself genuinely moved by pity rather than anger. This was a servant loyal enough to do anything, anything at all, for his master's revival. Exactly like the vision from earlier. The moment the master died, the servant left alone at the sword's tip looked back with hollow, grieving eyes at an empty hilt, the last soul standing in a world that no longer had anyone else in it. Countless years of waiting, 2 full attempts across 2 different lifetimes, and still no escape from that loneliness. Li Yuan sinks to his knees before the statue. Master, am I really wrong? More cracks bloom across the stone, the blood-red light intensifying, gathering under the eyes like real tears. Why aren't you willing to wake up? I just want the sword hilt to no longer be empty. The master can always stand on the sword hilt, and I can stand on the sword tip to help you battle the heavens and earth. Wang Lin has no personal grudge against this man. He lets out a quiet sigh and puts the karma whip away. It was extreme paranoia that lost him, he thinks. After the first failure 10,000 years ago, his faith was already unstable. Now, failing a second time, it's finally collapsed. What follows is the resolution, and it's genuinely eerie. The cracks spread until even the sword and servant carving is fractured, red light coloring half the sky as it pours out and is pulled, faster and faster, into the ancient scroll Li Yuan's ancestor once crafted. Li Yuan watches with rising, desperate excitement. Master, as every last trace of red light drains cleanly from the statue, leaving it dim, ordinary, utterly without intelligence. The scroll, having absorbed it all, begins burning from every edge at once, green smoke rising and refusing to disperse. And inside that smoke, a blurry human figure slowly resolves, standing on a sword made of the same green haze, exactly where the original vision showed the master once stood. The figure rises and beckons, and Li Yuan trembles as the slave imprint rune flares on his forehead one final time, the remnant soul tearing free of his body and landing on the tip of that ghostly sword, exactly where the servant always belonged. Master and servant vanish together into the sky without a trace. Wang Lin is left staring at a statue that's lost its spirit entirely, falling briefly into his own trance, reliving the earlier vision, but this time hearing something new from the dying celestial's own voice. I'm dead, my soul extinguished. The statue crumbles into a meaningless pile of stone. And Wang Lin is honestly left without a clean answer. Did the celestial genuinely die back then, with everything since just a lonely dream spun from his servant's grieving remnant soul? Or was Wang Lin's entire theory correct after all? There's no way to know for certain. And from this day forward, somewhere in the Thunder Celestial realm, a sword made of green smoke exists, with a figure standing eternally at its tip. A weak voice pulls Wang Lin back to the present. Li Yuan, lying on the ground, disoriented, asking where he is before his eyes settle on Wang Lin. A month passes, and the tone of the story shifts entirely. Li Yuan, now genuinely himself for the first time we've ever seen him, is crouched over a patch of earth on a desolate, thunder-muffled fragment of the realm, explaining restriction theory to Wang Lin with real warmth. This particular patch, he explains, uses the 4th of the 8 celestial restriction laws, designed specifically to scramble the surrounding spiritual energy and hide from divine sense. Break it, and a celestial's hidden cave should be revealed underneath. He scoops up a handful of the restriction-charged dirt for his own storage bag, suggesting Wang Lin do the same. Once they leave the realm's environment, the dirt may transform into excellent material for crafting a restriction compass, and he offers to bring some back to the Li family for exactly that purpose. Li Yuan's gratitude toward Wang Lin, once he became clear-minded a month ago and the horror of everything he'd done under the imprint's control finally settled in, has been unwavering. He freely shares his restriction knowledge as thanks, promising that once they return to the Li family, he'll personally walk Wang Lin through the ancestral inheritance temple and teach him the full annihilation restriction to repay the debt of being freed. It's one of the 4 great restrictions, comparable in power to an actual celestial spell. And critically, it can only be learned at a genuine place of inheritance, and the Li family is the last place on record that still holds one. There's a catch, though, and Li Yuan lays it out with real honesty. Over the family's 10,000 years suffering under the slave imprint, The annihilation restriction was taught to outsiders 7 separate times, always as an absolute last resort. And every one of those students genuinely learned the real technique, comprehended at the actual inheritance temple, nothing hidden. But without something called the restriction heart, none of what they learned counts as the complete annihilation restriction. That heart passes exclusively to the head of each generation, and Li Yuan promises to give Wang Lin half of it, permanently, once they return. They find their first real target that day, a ruined celestial mountain and a crumbling, dignified palace. Its once magnificent gardens stripped down to a few ordinary trees swaying in the wind, everything showing signs of having been picked over long ago. Li Yuan bitterly notes the restriction protecting it had already been crudely broken by someone else, years before they arrived. But Wang Lin's eye catches something everyone else missed, a tree behind the palace where only the left half has been moving in the wind this entire time, the right half dead still. Li Yuan is visibly impressed. That kind of observational instinct, he says, surpasses plenty of trained restriction masters. They fly over together and find a genuinely gloomy, dangerous aura radiating from the motionless half, and underneath it, 2 skeletons. One of them wears rough, naturally cracked leather armor. And that's where the episode ends, with Wang Lin's eyes widening in a rare flash of pure disbelief the instant he sees it. This is... So think about the arc this whole episode just closed, and the one it just cracked open. A servant's 10,000-year devotion turned out to be the true engine behind an entire family's curse. And whether his master was ever truly alive to refuse resurrection, or whether it was all one grieving soul's endless dream, is a question the story deliberately refuses to answer. And whose armor is it really? That's where we pick up next time. If you're enjoying this arc, hit that like button, drop a comment on your best guess for what Wang Lin just saw, and subscribe so you don't miss the reveal.